Hello everybody. Today in this session we will be speaking about reward management and the strategic reward management. This particular video has got two parts. One part will speak about the reward management and the second part will speak about the strategic reward management. So in the previous videos, you had some fair idea about what incentives are and how exactly management tries to reward its employees. And you're also familiar with Maslow's theory, which says that it is not just money or pay, salary which motivates an individual. It is more than that. Okay, so people look for rewards either in the form of cash or in the form of non-financial rewards also. And we also know non-financial rewards go a long way in motivating the people. And then while we are rewarding the employees, there is an ultimate or there is an ulterior goal, I will say, or a motive from the management point of view. That is, one is that definitely to see that we retain the employee, our attrition levels are low, and the performance levels are high, and the individual continues to perform his optimum levels. So this is what the management or the organization is actually aiming at. So when it is aiming at this, rewards and management of rewards is just one of those practices which are being followed, which help the organization to achieve this particular goal. So in this video, we'll try to see first. We'll first try to understand what exactly is this reward management. That is one part of it. And in the second part, we will focus on how do we strategically organize our rewards in the organization. So in this process, we will try to understand what's the policy of the organization, what are the practices, and what are all the processes that should need to be in place if the reward management practices have to be in order. Okay? If we go by the basic understanding, it's mainly concerned with how we actually formulate our reward management policy in a strategic manner in accordance with the value to the organization and helps the organization to achieve its strategic goals. So this is what I try to say. And you see the highlighted one, reward people fairly, equitably, consistently. It is not just rewarding the people, but also trying to see that they are rewarded in a fair manner, equitably, and just, that is consistently. So continuously this process is being emphasized. And it also deals with the reward management, also deals with the design, implementation, maintenance of the processes, practices, procedures, that help to meet the goals of both organization and the individual. And then if we look at what are the objectives or aims, right, of this reward management, basically we are talking with reference to reward people according to what the organization values and wants to pay for. That is where the when employees adhere to the practices, when employees comply with the rules, when there are no complaints about the individual or about the employee, definitely the organization would like to reward such an individual or an employee. And the values for which the organization stands for in terms of either customer satisfaction, delivery on time, or maintaining the integrity, or with regard to the choice of the product or the features of the product, customer satisfaction, any of these organizational values of the organization, when they are upheld by the employees, definitely there will be a reward. Then we also reward people for the value they create in the organization. That is, this value they create because of either because of their enhanced or increased performance levels, increased productivity ratios, etc. We definitely, or merit of the employee, we would definitely like to reward. Then We would also reward the right things to convey the right message about what is important in terms of behaviors and outcomes. So this is an indirect lesson to the people who actually try to deviate or who are not actually falling in its place. And a lesson, a positive stroke is created over here that we are trying to reward them in a positive manner. Then we are also trying to develop an overall organizational culture. So it's very clear that we want to, we will actually reward employees who uphold the organizational values, who stand for merit or whose performance levels are very high. And it's an indirect message to the non-performers or to others who are deviant, who have some deviant behaviors, that if you fall in line, definitely your behaviors will be reinforced. And we also develop a total organizational performance related culture. And apart from that, we would also like to motivate people and obtain their commitments, right? So this acts as a great motivator to the employees, and it helps us to attract and retain the high quality people which the organization requires. So the attracting and retaining talent within the organization is definitely there. Then creating the total reward processes that recognize the importance of both financial and non-financial rewards. So as I told you at the beginning, rewards can be financial as well as non-financial. So from a holistic perspective, we create a system of rewards, reward processes within the organization, which will encompass both financial and non-financial aspects. So having said that, now let's look at the theories, which actually explain the pay levels. So the theory is in terms of either, some of the economic theories actually mention this. So the first theory is that of law of supply and demand. And as you can see, the summary of the theory states that other things being equal, when there is a surplus of labor and supply exceeds the demand, pay levels go down, right? Obviously, we also know this particular rule. And if there is a scarcity of labor, demand exceeds, pay goes up. Obviously, that is, whenever there is a scarcity of a particular skill, definitely that particular skill has to be rewarded differently. This applies to HR aspect. Okay, so what is the significance of it? The practical significance of that is it emphasizes the importance of labor market factors in affecting the market rates. That's what I said. That when the skill is scarce, definitely the employability of the individual increases, plus the pay for the individual also increases. So this is the relationship we have from the law of supply and demand, which is an economic theory which we will start applying to our HR aspect. Next theory is that of efficiency wage theory. Now, which says that the firms will pay more than the market rate because they believe that high levels of pay will contribute to increases in productivity by motivating superior performance, attracting better candidates, etc. etc. So this is also known as economy of high wages, right? And this we have already observed in our aims and objectives of the reward. Okay, most of it we have covered over there. It motivates increased performance, attracts better candidates, and then reduces attrition levels, and persuades workers that they are being and gives a message that they are being treated fairly and justly. This is what the theory says in essence. Now, the significance of this in our HR aspect is organizations use efficiency wage theory when they formulate pay policies which place them as market leaders or at least above that. So whenever we are fixing the pay, whenever we are fixing the incentives, whenever we are talking about bonus, whenever we are talking about the rewards, etc., we are actually relating it to the market, to the markets, and how our competitors are actually, what our competitors are actually paying, what does the government policy say, and we would like to be on par with it or sometimes above it, particularly when we want to retain the people above that. The third theory is that of human capital theory. A worker has a set of skills developed by education training which generates a stock of productive capital. Okay, now this is a typical HR concept also, which speaks about some amount of specialized training, specialized skills, education which the individual possesses, which we can look at as a productive capital. And the application of that is where the employees and employers each derive benefits from investment in creating this human capital and the level of pay with a reasonable return on investment. So the organization creates circumstances and opportunities for training and development of these human capital, and so that both individual is satisfied and the organization also benefits from that. This is where the ROI concept comes up. Now, just a quick look at what the elements of the reward management are. Right? Beginning with, you have the business strategy and the HR strategy in place. So the business strategy is, in terms of how much rewards can be given, and when can the reward be given, and at what levels, what percentages it should be given, etc., etc. That's where the business and the HR strategy. It's a total overall policy which the organization comes up with in the form of a business strategy, which the HR strategy usually applies. Okay, and this is translated, or this will become more concrete in the form of a reward strategy. Now, this reward strategy will start with, from the job evaluation, then the grade and pay structure, then market rate and contingent pay. So all this, you would have done in another lesson, but here what we are only saying, what the first part or the arrows above in the top portion will speak about how we actually fix the price for a particular position in the organization. Okay, so how do we compensate a particular position? That is what we do by following the procedures of job evaluation, grade and pay structures, and we look at the market ratio analysis and the contingent pay, which will contribute for the total remuneration for the individual. And apart from that, each individual is also, and each employee is also entitled to employee benefits, allowances, performance management, and non-financial rewards. So it is salary plus these benefits, allowances, and the non-financial rewards, which will speak about the total reward for the individual. Right? So this is the general picture that we have about the compensation and reward of the employees. So a reward system, what does a reward system consist of? A reward system basically will consist of policies, practices, procedures and procedures. Right? So about each one of them we will be speaking in detail. Okay? So when we speak about the policy, it provides the guidelines on approaches to managing the rewards. In practices, we speak about the financial and what are all the non-financial, financial rewards which are stated very explicitly and which everybody is familiar with. And processes, what processes are they actually following, the relative size of the jobs and assessing the individual performances, etc. Procedures in terms of maintaining the system and to see that it is maintained efficiently, fairly and justly. And flexibility is also there so that employees feel that they are getting the value for money. So a typical reward system will consist of all these four aspects, I will say. Now, what is a reward strategy? A reward strategy, it sets out what the organization intends to do in the long term so that its goals are being achieved. So a little now into detail as to what does the reward policy speak about. The reward policy will speak about the level of rewards, achieving the equal pay, then the approach to total reward and the scope for the use of contingent rewards like competence or contributions and transparency. That's a publication in terms of reward structures and processes to the employee. So this is what, if you keep the previous diagram in mind, you will understand now, what is our approach, the level of rewards, then the achieving and then approaching the equal reward, and then level of rewards, and then using all this so that we reward the actual competency of the individual, the contribution and all, and helping the individual to achieve. This is where the policy is very, very clear to the employees, so to say. Total reward is a combination of financial and non-financial rewards evaluated. This I have already told you. And the total remuneration is the value of all cash payments and benefits received by the employees. So now we have the total reward, total remuneration, then we have the policy in place and the reward strategy. All this we are now familiar with. Now let's look at what is the basic pay, base or basic pay. So the fixed salary that constitutes the rate for the job. Right now, this could be in the form of a particular scale, or sometimes it can be just a consolidated figure, which the individual will be receiving. That's where the base or the basic pay comes in. Then the second aspect to that is that it also varies according to the grade of the job for manual workers, level of skills required, etc. So obviously, the more the contribution in terms of your intellectual capacities, the base salary also keeps increasing. So the more intellect, skill, knowledge, application of these aspects definitely will be calling for higher basic pays. Then it's also influenced by internal and external aspects, like job evaluation and the market rates, and then whether the skill is easily available or no, or there's a scarcity of these skills in the market. Definitely, then the pricing of that will differ accordingly. This we have already said that, right? And then this basic pay or the base pay can also be expressed as an annual, weekly, hourly. So there are places, where people are paid on a piece rate, so some hourly basis, etc. Or sometimes, on a weekly, at the end of the week, remuneration that is being given, or monthly or annually, right? And then allowances there can also be allowances. This is more than the basic or apart from the basic, where we have allowances for overtime. Then the shift, if it is a night shift, they get some extra payment that is being made, that is asocial hours. Then increased cost of living, that is, there are some geographical areas where the cost of living is very high. So when if you are employed in that place, you will be receiving a little more allowance, right? And the base rate can also be adjusted according to the cost of living, organization, or it can be adjusted in agreement with the particular employees and the organization. Then in the job evaluation, actually we come out with a very particular way, definite way with which we actually do the job evaluation and identify the worth of the job, relative worth of the job, in a very systematic and a scientific way, by taking into consideration the grade pay structures, then the grading of jobs and relativities, etc. Right? But it does not determine the level of pay directly. But it gives you an indication that these are the market rates, and it will also provide you a grade structure within which we can always put our reward over. We have the market rate analysis. So it's a process of identifying the rates of pay in the labor market for comparable jobs to inform decisions on levels of pay within the organization. So there will be a policy decision which will be made on how internal rates of pay should compare with external. That is an organization stats. So if the market, if outside our competitor or in the market rate for a particular position is let us say 10,000, then we also need to pay on an average a few hundreds this way, that way of 10,000. And the organization has to take a stand on it, right? If we pay less, people won't come, and if it is a scarce skill, definitely we can pay more also. What is this grade and pay structures? As I told you, okay, that this is a scientific procedures by which these jobs are placed in a grade structure according to their relative size, and the pay levels in the structure are influenced by market rates, and the pay, and they attach some grades, and then the pay progression based on performance, competence, contributions, services, etc. Right? And accordingly, a range is being arrived. That's where the grade and pay structures come about. Then let's go to contingent pay. Now, when we take the contingent pay, right, and here we have the additional financial rewards, like which are related to either performance, competence, contribution, skill, or experience. These usually get added to the original pay by way of consolidated pay, right? And if it does not get consolidated, then it becomes a variable pay. Either it can get added into it in the form of a consolidated pay, or it can be just given as a variable pay or a bonus also. Then other benefits are also there, like pension schemes, then sick pay, then medical leaves. Otherwise, they are also called as medical leaves. Then coverage for insurance, then use of transportation or company cars, and other perks like sometimes washing allowance and other types of allowances which are being given to the employees. So these are some of the other benefits which the employees can also experience in some positions in some organizations. Then the non-financial rewards, that do not involve any direct payments and arise from the work itself, like for example achievement, autonomy, recognition, scope to use and develop skills, training, career development, and high quality leadership. Non-financial rewards are mostly experienced by the employee, whereas the earlier rewards which we have said, they are all offered by the management or by the organization. But non-financial rewards are something which are more subjective. They are experienced by each employee separately, individually. Some employees might experience a bit of achievement, a sense of achievement on the job, and some employees enjoy the autonomy that they are being provided. Some employees look for some recognition on the job. Some employees look for awards, titles, honors, etc. on the job. And some people might be looking for some special trainings, challenging jobs, career advancements, opportunities, and high quality leadership jobs or positions, etc. So the non-financial rewards are usually, as the employee goes up on the career, non-financial rewards become more operational, than at the beginning of the service or beginning of the career ladder, we can say that. Now, let's look at this total reward a little more. Okay, it includes all types of rewards, indirect and direct, intrinsic as well as the extrinsic. When we look at this particular diagram, so we have the base pay, we have the contingency pay, and we have the employee benefits, right? These are the transactional rewards which will contribute for the total remuneration, right? And this is something which we are all aware of. See, when we enter the job, we know what will be our base pay, what will be our contingency pay, and what will be the benefits that we are going to get. Then there is another type of aspect which is related to this. That's what we'll call as a relational rewards. So we are building a relationship in the organization, and this building up of this relationship is what is contributing for the learning development or for the career advancement, and and which will also be contributing, or which will also be enhancing our work experience. And we will experience non-financial or intrinsic rewards, and together this total remuneration and this non-financial intrinsic rewards will contribute for the total reward of the employee. This is how we have to look at it. So the salary and whatever tangible things which we are all looking for, right? That is one part, and the intangible ones in the form of either career development or achievement, sense of achievement, or titles, awards, opportunities, again, which we are looking for. Together, we will consider as a total reward experienced by the employee. So this is what I said: tangible, relational tangible, transactional tangible. So from the individual point of view, the base pay, contingent, long-term incentive, shares, profit, benefits in the form of either pensions, holidays, healthcare, perks, flexibility. And then learning and development in the form of training on the job, career development, succession planning. Work environment should be such that it fosters, a sort of a learning environment. The leadership is very supportive. The communication is open, high involvement of people. There's a lot of work-life balance and recognition for the employees. So much as far as how the reward management actually operates. In terms of, we have a policy, we have a procedure, we have a practice. So it is both, it consists of both the tangible ones, which we all experience, plus the intangible ones. Together only we will consider that as the reward of the total reward, total remuneration, and total reward experience that the employee enjoys on the job. Well, let's take a look at the strategic reward component in this. So what is the strategic reward? It is about the development and implementation of reward strategies and philosophies, guiding principles that underpin them. So it answers two basic questions. Where do we want our reward practices, and how do we intend to go there? A typical strategic questions they are. It's basically a declaration of intent that defines what the organization wants to do in the long term with regard to its reward policies, practices, and procedures, and so that its business goals are being met. Then it also provides a sense of purpose and direction and a framework for developing reward policies and practices. And it's based on understanding of the needs of the organization and how they can best be satisfied. Okay, this is where the strategic part depends upon. So it understands what the organization's business goals are, and it positions the rewards in such a way that it can be reached in the process. A typical one, okay, will be priorities will be something like this, where it supports the business goals, it rewards high performers, recruits and retains high performers, links pay to the market, maintains market competitiveness, manages pay costs, and ensures internal equity. I think it's quite self-explanatory, which we have been speaking about. Okay, so basically, it has a very clear defined goals that link to business objectives, a well-defined pay and reward programs which meets all the people, and then supportive HR and reward processes are also in place. So you have the two things. Okay, you have one aspect over here which we identify as the broad brush reward strategy. So this particular strategy may commit the organization to the pursuit of a total reward policy. And this basic aim is to achieve an appropriate balance between financial and non-financial rewards. And the selection of reward initiatives and priorities will be based on analysis of the present circumstances and assessment of the needs of the employees and the future. Right? So, in case we would like to replace the present methods with methods of contingent pay with the pay contributions, then the introduction of a new grade and new pay has to be looked at. This is how it goes about in a phase-wise manner. So we first identify what is diagnosed, where do we want the change to happen. Phase 2, we design it. Phase 3, we execute it. Phase 4, we try to evaluate and see whether we have reached the particular goal or not. So in the diagnosis, okay, the diagnosis can take place with the help of following activities. We can have a focus group discussion. We can look at what the other industry benchmark surveys are all speaking. We can examine what the current reward strategies and employee attitudes are, and review the rewards related the literature which is, and support and try to document this entire aspects. So in the design part of it, okay, we try to design the compensation that is associated with it, then the benefits which go with it, and the type of professional and personal developmental aspects that are required for that, and the type of support systems in the form of work environment which needs to be there. So we try to put all this in place in the second phase of it, right? And if you take the compensation, it again has the pay levels. We've spoken about the pay level. So whether it is in terms of the grades, pay grades, etc., we have already spoken. Apart from that, we have something called as a skill-based pay and a broad banding, which gives us some sort of a ranges within which our compensation falls about it. So skill-based pay, it solely bases on the job's qualifications rather than qualifications plus a job description. It enables the company to reward employees for performing multiple tasks. And broad banding is very large pay ranges, 40% of them, which maximum can be anywhere between 100% to 300% above the minimum. And basically, broad banding gives a lot of flexibility in assigning pay levels to the jobs. Okay. Then we have the pay increases. Then pay increases can happen in two ways. That is the merit pay and the promotion pay. In merit pay, the employer correlates the pay increase with performance ratings. So the higher the performance, the higher will be the pay increase. Promotion pay criteria, here it is, you will only take the employee's previous performance, anticipate for the future that his performance levels will be the same, and we try to give him the enhanced pay over here. When it comes to planning the incentives, okay, so we can have incentives for individual performance, group performance, and organizational performance. So if it is individual performance, usually the sales force are usually associated with it. So the sales commissions in terms of piece rate pay, and the advantages are, immediately they can also experience the rewards and has a very powerful impact on it. But the disadvantages, it does not promote teamwork, and sometimes it may be difficult to measure or ensure. Then when it comes to group performance, there are several plans like gain sharing, goal sharing, team-based incentive plans, etc. And it encourages a lot of teamwork, and it yields a moderate impact, about 13% on productivity. When it comes to organizational performance, profit sharing, stock sharing, broad-based stock options, stock purchase, etc., etc. It increases shareholders' returns. That's the advantage of it, and it generates a small increase of 6% as far as productivity is concerned. So if you see in all the three different ways of providing the bonus or the incentives, individual performance, actually motivating or individually trying to create incentives seems to be better, because it's showing something like 30% increase, and the least is that of organizational performance, because lots of people are involved over here. Here the individual experiences the rewards immediately. That's the difference over there. Benefits can be, as I told you, in the form of health care, insurances, and a lot of employees actually benefit from this. And in terms of other types of benefits, could be in the form of personal and professional development, like training, career development, opportunities for higher or challenging jobs, etc. And employees also feel that they have served the organization in different challenging capacities. Then the work environment in general will include the job design, recognition, then the work-life balance, everything, all the practices which are present within the organization, and aligning the compensation with training, selection, flexible work arrangements, employee involvement practices, all of them have a great impact. And if you see this diagram in the design also, if you see, how do you design it? You design the compensation, benefits, personal development, work environment. All four aspects have to be taken care of, which will result in pay levels, pay increases, incentives, job design, recognition, work-life balance, which will again contribute for either skill-based pay, broad banding, or promotion pay individual. Those decisions can be made about. But basic design will focus on the compensation, benefits, personal and professional development, and work environment. The execution part of it. In the execution, once we have designed, okay, we know the strategy, we have the execution part of it, the team must consider numerous issues. Who are the people who are eligible? Today, only executives and sales personnel were eligible for incentives earlier. But today, all employees are eligible for the type of incentives and bonus that we are not who are all working in the organization, right? And for the execution, we require a lot of top management support in the large-scale organizational intervention, and top managers should provide their support not only verbally but also by having the policy and the system in place. Then there should be a process or the procedure by which we measure, right? So we define the criteria as to when the incentives or when the bonus or when this particular rewards will be operating or variable pay will be operating. So the criteria should be explicitly stated so that no ambiguity is there, and all employees are clear about it, right? And these criteria could include performance such as individual productivity or customer service, group or company profitability, etc. All these are getting included. And once the employees meet all this, that can take place. In the last evaluation phase, we can speak about which outcomes to measure, revisit the system's objectives, and then consider which data sources will provide more information, etc. So we can just evaluate and see whether we are on par with what our competitors are, and whether we are on par with the industry survey information that we have with us, and evaluate and see whether it is contributing for employee satisfaction and for total organizational performance. So we have the several different types of data sources, from which we can see whether our incentives and rewards are in place. We have the operation reports, workforce surveys, income statements, and then customer or employee human resource information, HRIS, etc., from which we can actually measure whatever we are trying to do and evaluate whether our practices are in place. So we can compare with our execution with the new reward management, and try to see whether we have whether there is visibly any variables are being missed out, or whether some variables are contributing to that, etc. And if in case there is something missing, we can always look at the management literature to see what we can incorporate and how we can improve the system. Right, and this evaluation can be done in a few months, in a few years, so that it helps us to understand what actually is responsible for the outcome. And a successful implementation of the revised total rewards program will always be challenging, but the effort is worthwhile. Right, it might be difficult. The entire process might be difficult, but a well thought out and skillfully implemented rewards will give organization a competitive advantage. And in particular, it generates the business outcomes that most matter to your strategy. And there is definitely employee retention, high productivity, job satisfaction, and service quality. And no organization can basically ignore this particular aspect in today's world. These are the references. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.